edition of the Value Exchange podcast. I'm Annabelle Lambert. I'm here with my regular co-host, Robert Pye. Say hello, Rob Pye.
Morning.
Today we are delighted to be joined by Rax Kalia, who we met a few months ago at an event where he was hosting SkillsBuilder and DWP, looking at essential skills. And we met Rax in passing and decided that we must have him on our podcast to come and talk about who he is, his journey, and what he's doing at the moment. So, Rax, without further ado, over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
First and foremost, thank you for inviting me on the podcast. Never in my wildest dream did I think I'd be sitting and doing a podcast, but so thank you.
You are welcome.
So for my job title, even though I'm more than my job title, I'm a local events manager for the Halifax flagship branch, and I've got 2 other sites across London that I look after. But if I think about my journey, and a confession, I have been watching the podcast, so let's just get straight to the point with my journey. So people think, as you can tell, I've got a British accent. I've got an Indian heritage, so I get labelled being British Indian. So born and raised here, went to India for a couple of years, and then I came back. So on that level, when I'm thinking about my life and the experiences, my life pretty much, I think I became really self-aware at the age of 11. So I was in my secondary school for year 7, I think they were called back then. And then in February 93, 94, I can't remember now, I fly off to India, and there I am in Punjab studying. So anyone who follows cricket, it's Mohali. Anyone who's into the Indian films, I will say Chandigarh. So I'm there.
So you were 11. Just interrupt. 11 years old.
Yeah.
So what? Just I don't normally interrupt this early on, but what caused an 11-year-old to go back to India? What was was it the obviously the parents and
I had no say in the matter. There was personal incidents that happened that impacted that decision. Secondly, the quality of education played a part at that time. So just to give you an idea, when I mean quality of education, I'm just speaking it from my experience. Secondary school that I went to, 5 periods, an hour each, and you have a couple of breaks. When I was studying in India, I was going to school 6 days a week, 8 periods, and each period was probably, I can't remember now, between 20 to 30 minutes long with 1 break. And we will study on a Saturday as well. And my lessons will start around 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 1, 2 o'clock we'd be done. Whereas my secondary school, it was like 9 o'clock start, we finished around 3:25. So just as on that level, it was really, really tough. Just getting my head around thinking, hold on, I'm in my early 40s, so those who are elderly viewers will relate to me in a sense whereby on a Saturday I grew up watching Live and Kicking on BBC, right? Here I am on a Saturday studying in India, and I'm like, what on God's green earth am I doing studying on a Saturday?
So Punjab, was it a private school? Was it
predominantly all the schools in India are private. There's only a few that are state funded, and back then in India you had, they call it in whichever language that school is. So I come from an English school, so almost coming from England. So I had to go into a school that they refer to as English medium. So all the subjects were taught in English, or else the language barriers. Yeah. And in Punjab, there's 3 state mediums. You've got the Punjabi, the state language, or the Hindi being the medium where they teach it in Hindi. But I went to English, and if memory serves me right, it wasn't as common, but it was enough for me to go there. And the one thing I noticed while I was studying in India is how driven the students were. Like, for them, opportunity is slim to none. Things have changed now, but back then, I was like blown away. People, I don't know where the competitiveness came in. Like everyone wanted to finish first, and when I got to India, my ego was put into check. I thought, yeah, I'm clever. I know my timetable's up to 14. I'm 11 years old. I had this 7-year-old who knew her timetable's up to 24. I was like, you know what? Keep my mouth shut. Let me understand what is going on here. So, and even there, the education, we had exams every 3 months. So, and school starts in April, and it ends in March. Whereas in the UK, we start in September, we finish in the summer. So I did it for a couple of years in India, and then my parents realized, hold on, if he studies in India, his grades won't be recognized because of GCSEs and university. So they call me back. So my mum, my brother, my sister, I'm the eldest of 3 siblings. My dad stayed in the UK and worked here and sent money because it's private school. Come back, and I come at the end of year 9. So I didn't do no SATs exams or anything. So my exposure to education over those 2.5 years in terms of academic terms in UK learning was non-existent. Come into year 10, I think that's your GCSEs years, and I struggled. I absolutely struggled with the culture because the teachers didn't have the respect that we had in India. And again, here in the UK, we get detention. It's not the end of the world. In India at that time, if one misbehaved, we all got punished. So I remember our school bags being heavy. They're like 5 to 7 kgs, having our arms up above our head, getting a little clip behind the ear. So discipline was completely different. And I was like, how is it this kid, like when I came back to the UK, and I was like, how is this kid able to backchat to this teacher? And it was just a whole different culture. And I take complete ownership. I'm not an A-star student in my GCSEs or anything like that. I tried to give it the best I could, and I think it was just clash of cultures of me trying to adjust. But what I learned after my GCSEs, the grades that I didn't get, I was like, great. My aspiration at the time was to go to university because you watch all these Hollywood films. I wanted to wear the gown. I wanted to chuck the hat. And I was like, great. I haven't done great in my GCSEs. So I was like, right, what do I do to achieve my goals? And I said, what? And again, no one in my dad's generation went to India, and I'll touch on that in a moment, to university. And I was like, right, I need to figure this out on my own because I had no mentors or anyone to point me. So I was like, right, what did I enjoy at school? I was like, business studies, I was good. I'm a people person. I love marketing. I like all the ads. So that's what I did. So I did GNVQ business intermediate, did that. Then I went GNVQ advanced business studies because the way we do our exams here were completely different to the way I was coached. Finally, I make it to uni, the promised land. And the one thing that blew my mind again was people are paying money to go university, but they're not seizing the opportunity. It was hurting my Asian heritage. I'm like, we spend money, we want to get our full value. Again, value exchange, right? I want my money spent. I want this. And I was like, all right. So I'm at uni. I graduated. And one of the reasons I also went to uni was I'm going to be working for the rest of my life. And like a lot of young people, I don't know what I want to become. All right, we all have dreams. And being a kid, studying in India, those little Indian genes all of a sudden take form. Oh, yeah, I can be a cricketer. I'll be a Bollywood superstar and all of that. But reality slowly kicks in. So I go to uni, graduated, traveled, went back to India, did a few holidays, and then I came back and I joined Lloyds Banking Group. And a year into it, not even that, I think it was 6 months, what happened was I was missing the sense of fulfillment. I knew what success meant, but what I realized was life is not about being successful, it's about being fulfilled. And I realized that I wasn't doing something for the greater good. So, coming from an Indian heritage, or you can call it the South Asian culture, is we are trained to be servant leaders the minute we are born. So we have to be role models. So when people go, oh, brand reputation or anything, I'm like, yeah, the first brand reputation we think about is the family name, the surname. So again, we're well trained on that. And I was like, okay. Then I'm sitting there and I'm like, what do I want to do? So before I joined uni, I was a ECB level cricket coach. So something that I was trained through a football club. I won't mention their names. Through them partnership over the summer holidays, they trained me into becoming a cricket coach, and I was coaching grassroots level in my local area. University came, prior exchange, and then I was like thinking, what do I do now? And then I remembered my dad was a cadet back in India when he was 16, but his aspirations was never fulfilled because my grandfather, he was a head teacher in India. So he came across to the UK. He was invited to become a teacher. So my dad and his brother, my uncle at that time, came and they were settling in the 60s. So I was like, okay, let me join the job. Common name for the police is the job. So I was like, okay. And then I applied for the job. And one of the other reasons why I joined the job was the fact that when I looked at my CV, all the skill sets I had were all retail predominant. So Comet, Tempo, Macros. There was nothing, even my work experience was retail. I did a week in HSBC. I did a week in Woolwich Building Society, for those who remember.
Yeah.
So I was just destined to join the bank in my day job. It was just, I was moving. But when I joined the Met as a special constable, again, it's serving your community, giving something back. You get new skill sets, you get to see a different walk of life, you get to make extreme decisions. Yeah, in such intense environments. So again, resilience plays a part. And it was just slowly building that up. And then where I work in the city in the West End, my local temple, Hindu temple, I use those same police skill sets to supervise all the ushering because we do these big festivals. And in the Hindu culture, which is known as Sanatana Dharma, we have loads of festivals because festivals are classed as the mother of all devotions. That's why throughout the whole year, it's trying to keep the people practice Hinduism in relation with the divine. So again, I was just like thinking, right, God, I've gone to school, got skills, and I understood myself. Then I get myself a normal day job, realize what my skill sets are, take it to the Met, using it for London and Queen, now King, and the people. Now, then I'm like, oh, I'm now working in and supporting the temple. Oh, I'm indirectly working from God. I'm not getting paid for it. Hopefully, it gives me some blessings. And then it's like now I bring it back into my day job to support the community through my day job. And it's all in line with my purpose. So one of the other reasons I became a copper was I wanted to make a difference. But it was in 2016 that my purpose changed to making a difference at scale. Because I don't want to make ripple effects no more. I want to make tidal waves. Hence, we crossed paths at the event that I was hosting.
Where did Lloyds Bank come into that in terms of your, university, becoming a cop, the Hindi temple? I haven't quite situated where Lloyds or Halifax came
So
in.
I joined Halifax back in 2007, and then in 2009 Halifax became part of Lloyds Banking Group, or should I say, Lloyds Banking Group took shape. I've been with the bank for 16 years. I did my assessments for the Met in 2008 in the summer, and then in 2009, I'm in Hendon doing my training on that front. So yeah,
And
15 years
in
almost.
terms of shaping, sorry, go on. I've interrupted.
So
I've got lots of questions.
sorry, yeah, and I've almost done 15 years for the Met.
And how in shaping you, you're obviously somebody who has thought a lot about the journey rather than stumbled from one square to another. You're obviously a thinker. What role did education, religion, your parents, the organisations you work for have in shaping, the what comes next kind of decisions? What would you remember as the most sort of influential moments of your sort of 40 odd years in terms of the shaping?
So there's a few quotes that are stuck in my head. One was my teacher said to me, he said two things.
In
One, right,
India or UK or
UK.
where?
So
Okay.
in UK, in India, I just literally had my head down and I just wanted to knock him down. In India, again, in India, even though I come from a Hindu background, the nearest temple to us was a Sikh temple, which we refer to
Mhm.
as a Gurdwara. So when those exams used to take place, all my friends would pray saying, "Can I get number one spot?" And between how competitive we were was like a half a mark or so on. And I knew I wasn't the smartest kid in the class. And I was out of a class of 30 to 35, I was finishing 13. So I'm going to the Gurdwara and I'm praying there. I'm going, "Can I just finish top 10, please?" I knew where I was because it's a difference of a half a mark or a mark. There was a couple of subjects that I was good at, and there was some. It was just like literally marks, miniature things that separate. It's like F1, split seconds. So there, I just literally learned resilience, and when opportunity comes your way, how do you try to seize that? Um, and when I came to secondary school back in the UK, the quotes I remember I always heard. They're saying, "Rax, you got the gift of the gab." Secondly, um, your grades don't define who you are. And that's before I got my GCSE grades. And one of the things that I realized was it's just to build your confidence. But when I was at university in my first year, I remember the head of, I think it might have been a dean, it was someone senior on opening day, and he goes, "Right, those who have done A levels, you're great at exams, but your coursework isn't great. Those who've done GNVQ, your coursework's great, but your exams are not great. So we know what you're weaker. And this year, we're going to make sure you're all leveled up." And I'm sitting there and going, "God, give me a break." But thankfully, the older you get, you still carry on to be able to choose a subject. So I was still being clever, and I just chose the subjects that had the least amount of exams in, so the modules. So I maintained my grades going forward. But yeah, that stage in when those grades, I cried. I'll be perfectly honest, I cried when I didn't get those A stars, A's, or anything. And then I thought, right, what do I do? You wipe your tears, you own your feelings. So I'm at 16. And yeah, I just thought, right,
And
what's
what it continues to fascinate me. However many hundreds of these that we end up, doing, hopefully forever. Is that it's the childhood memories. That you'd be in your
next?
40s, 50s, 60s. That it's the childhood memories that do. They stick. They kind of shape us. So moving forward now to I'd like to do community impact at scale. And just another throwaway comment.
Yeah,
Um, Having worked with the police a lot, with Team Police Venture, which was well-being for 300,000 cops, that was one of our last spin-outs. Um, Nearly all of them join the force because they want to give back and do public service, and it's I think we need to promote that more. You think of doctors and nurses when you think of public good, but people often don't think of the police as actually most people join the police force to do good. So going to the bit you just said of I'd like to do it at more scale. Tell me where did that come from, and what are your thoughts around what does that mean? That Annabelle
Yeah,
often talks about world domination for value
yeah.
exchange, which is it's like, right, well, we want to do more of what we've done. So where did
And
that
there's
come from?
and there's nothing wrong with what Annabelle says, because whether we think small or large, you're still required to put the effort in. And one of the final quotes that my dad said to me when I was doing my attestation, like once I became a copper, my dad said, "Only few can do what you can do. Especially, I'm doing it for free. I'm a volunteer." Um, and my dad said to me, and it didn't relate to police, but it kind of stuck in my head. It's like, in life, you will naturally become busier or priorities will change. And he goes, you might not be there in people's good times, but make sure you're there in their most difficult time. I don't think he expected me to become a cop and use that same principle moving forward on that front. So I just wanted to clarify on that part. In terms of what triggered my purpose, again, we talk about mentors, right? Um, I met my mentor through a friend, and funny enough, you mentioned that you worked for EY in a previous life. I met my mentor at EY. He didn't work. He doesn't work for EY at that time, but it was in London Bridge, and his name's Edward Anoba. And and through him, I learned how he basically took my skills and he helped me elevate them. So anything good about me or great that you like, all credit to my mentor. Anything that you see there's a sort of flaw, that's still work in progress. But it was in Brexit 2016, and I had this urge, like Annabella, I want to do something more. Being a police officer, I'm dealing with people. Even in my day job, I was supporting customers on a one-to-one purpose, and I'm like, my time is moving faster and faster. Like, I'm 41, so 25, 30, and it just naturally, the speed just picks up, and you're like, hold on,
It
it
just
was
gets
only
gets worse. Believe me, it just gets worse. I'm 57.
exactly.
It like woof.
Yeah, and this will resonate with you even more. So I'm like, right, it's me against the clock. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I need to make a difference. I don't need to be recognized for what I'm doing. I just need to make sure I left the world in a better place. Um, Brexit happened, and I'm in this mentor session, and one of the mentees asked my mentor, he goes, "Why is there so much um, problems in society?" And my mentor just replied back. He goes, because there are weak leaders in society. And then he gives me the look. Like when you misbehave, you get that look. But this look was out of love, saying it's time for you to step up. Plus, he already knew in the back of my head what was going through. So I was like, right, how do I now? It's like a blessing. The look is like, you're ready. Go. Figure this out. Go. And I was just like, okay, let's figure it out. How do I do this? So I was looking through my day job, looking for other opportunities where I can support. So so in my current role, I'm a local events manager, which means I get to give a platform to social enterprises, charities. Just like you give me a platform to shine, I'm giving them a platform to shine and get their voices heard. So, and financial education. The one thing that the financial crash taught me was the lack of it. Currently trying to promote a petition that's currently happening, whereby we're trying to get financial education compulsory for primary school kids. This is one suffering that we as a nation can control and eradicate if everyone signs up to it. But it's amazing. I've been having the same conversation for 16 years, but this conversation now needs to take place elsewhere where it can actually genuinely make a difference. So yeah, so I'm trying to keep it controlled before my passion and takes me off the grid.
No, we want to unleash a bit of that passion.
Yeah.
So in terms of your current employer,
Yes.
Halifax becoming Lloyd's, how so in on your LinkedIn it says you're this community local events manager, but
Yes.
you're also leader of the bank's Hindu network as well.
Yes.
So as a platform, how can you maximize your passion, enthusiasm for doing good at a community level? What are the opportunities you see to really because it's a big organization. I've no idea how many Lloyds Bank employ, but
So
it's like tens of thousands of people, and you've got branch networks all over the place, and there's
yeah,
so much opportunity there.
100%. So in terms of Lloyds Banking Group, we're about 60,000 plus colleagues, big family, co-chair of the Hindu network. The network's about 9 months, 9 to 10 months coming up to. And because
Must be
of
a
my,
potentially quite a big network of the 60,000. I
yeah,
don't know,
yeah,
10,000, 6,000 or something is like
yeah, yeah,
people potentially.
yeah. And in terms of when through my day job, a simple example, I was doing a financial literacy session privately, and one of the attendees worked for a local council, and they did a Diwali event, and she goes, "It makes sense to have someone like yourself from the bank who was also the co-chair." And I
Come in.
went and I came to show support, but for that borough, if they wanted any financial literacy training, budgeting, how bank accounts work, credit scoring, again, they've got that relationship. The bank is still a fabric of the community, but really, what makes a community is people, right? How do we become successful? Is when our values and purposes align. The reason I'm here and the reason why you invited, because our purposes aligned. So my aspiration with this podcast is if I can inspire one person to take action. Sometimes you've mentioned I think a lot, and I do reflect, and I'm like, how many times have we read these best-selling books and it's been sold into millions? But how many out of those millions have actually took action to deliver something? I I think, I talk, I execute. And then the outcome I can't control because there might be different variables. But again, my Hindu scriptures say that do the work, don't worry about the result. Result, whether it's positive or negative, you will learn from it, and then you just move on. So it,
It's
Yeah,
so true.
yeah.
It's so true. Go on, Anima.
No, I was just going to say we interviewed somebody a couple of weeks ago, and her father had given her some advice, which was if the job's worth doing, do it, even if you do it badly. It's a similar sort of
Taking
sentiment. It's like
action.
yeah.
make sure you get on with it.
And
But
again,
again, in terms of the bank supporting a Hindi network and taking positive action on things like financial education, reminds me years ago we came across the Asian Business Network. It's a massive business network, and you could imagine people taking action at all levels in schools to just help that actually, okay, government, we need the policy. How are we going to affect the policy? But actually, at an immediate level, what is it? What are we doing for financial literacy amongst people in the classroom where people are there? How we teach them about equation, but we don't teach them about money. We don't.
yeah,
There's another guy we've interviewed. He's a Professor Atul Shah, and he's a Jain, and his profession is finance and accounting, and he's trying to teach to the world. Again, this is this sort of scaling bit about the morals and ethics of finance, and actually, it should be there not as an end, but as a means to an end. So, is the money flowing so we can do good? rather than is money accumulating. So he's taking a moral, philosophical angle with money, not just an educational one, and going, look, people in banking, finance and accounting, EY, whatever, we should be thinking about the morals and the purpose of money as a means to an end, not as an accumulation end. And the James, he's got a lot of good stuff to say about that from a religious point of view. So this is kind of this federation that, using whatever platform comes our way to fulfill our purpose. So it's strong messages there, Rax.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add more to that. So, like I said, I'm a kid of the '80s. I remember when they were talking about the ozone layer having a hole, and if it has a hole in it. So yeah, you both are nodding up and down, right?
We're so old, Rax. We remember all your social references.
And more.
I'm like Saturday morning TV I'm in. I've got a good 10 years on you.
So yeah, like literally, I remember that. And as a kid, you just think of it. It's like you can't really do much. You just look up for the grown-ups to do something about it. And again, through skill builders, we when I refer to we as a bank, Lloyds Banking Group, that's partnered up with skill builders. We created a content on sustainability. And so when the kids come in, like primary schools, I'm like, right. And this is where we're working on transferable skills. They're really young, but again, with skill builders, as you're well aware, it's a life learning skill and we teach it. And I'm getting these primary schools, year 5, year 6, saying, right, the bank's already sustainable, but what more can we do? And it's just amazing to see these little kids come up with some really cool ideas. And they were like saying, imagine if you're walking on the floor and as you're taking each step, it's generating kinetic electricity to power it all up. And I'm like, oh, your debit cards are made out of bamboo stick. It's like, where the hell did you? I was just trying to figure out what flag that country is when I was at their age, trying to memorize all of that. So it blows my mind away. And with Diwali just finishing, I always talk about Diwali from people from a non-Hindu background, and born and raised in London, I've always celebrated Diwali as one day. But like Rob mentioned, he's gone to India. And in India, different parts of the country, they celebrate over 5 days. And I was like trying to explain it, 5 different occasions that I can just think of. Is like, yeah, if I had to explain it, one of those 5 days out of Diwali was all about sustainability. And then Diwali as the festival light, but the day before I would refer it to as Christmas Eve, and I would narrate what the principle of those stories are. But it's how we articulate it and bring people on that journey wherever we are planning to go. So yeah, so thinking about life and purpose, and this is something I've been reflecting on. 0 to 10, I was thinking my life was all about health. I had like health issues. From 10 to 20, it's like trying to understand education, trying to fill in, trying to blend into cultures and understanding that. And what came out of that from my 10 to 20 was, this is where the name took birth, Rax. So my proper name is Rakesh or Rakesh Kalia. But when I'm here in the UK, I'm seen as an Indian. When I go to India, I'm seen as an Englishman. So where do I belong, right? So my nickname was Rax, which is normally commonly spelled as Raks. And I was like, right. I made my nickname into a professional name as Rax, Rax. And the X just represents wherever I am, that's what I'm going to class my own. So why am I outsourcing my happiness to someone else to tell me where I belong? It should be up to me to decide where I belong. From 20 to 30, I'm trying to find my feet in the real world like everyone else. 30 to 40, I become a family man, get married, and trying to learn another whole cycle. Now I'm in my 40s, I'm all about saying how deep can I go into my purpose. So in my 30s, like I was 26 when I joined the job. So that I knew my purpose was to make a difference. Now I'm in 40, It's like that transition. It's like, how deep can I go? Where will it take me? And like I said, this conversation taking place was nowhere on my agenda or anything. I thought it was more related with what I'm currently doing in my day job, like the co-chair of the Hindu network, supporting the police and looking after the people of London. But yeah, where it takes me.
And it's quite interesting, just like financial literacy.
Yeah,
You know, we we sort of give people permission to talk about themselves and their journey, because actually that isn't something people are taught to do in school or work or anywhere in their life. And so for many people it's kind of a new concept to go, right, I'm going to sort of, however old I am, just talk about my life in terms of how I was learning and what I thought about my journey, because actually that's a bit of a, it's a good stepping stone to, if you want to, go somewhere, you kind of need to know where you are and where you've been and where you want to go to. And that sort of, that thought process, where am I now? The X in Rax, where have I been? Your story, where am I going to? And everybody kind of needs to have those 3 chapters, but we don't really create space or time, most people, to actually be able to externalize that and talk about it. So I mean, there's just so many points on the podcast where that would, I would suggest, be very inspiring to others when they listen to you. Annabelle, you must have questions.
Well, I'm just wondering where between 50 and 60, what am I supposed to be doing is what what I want to ask.
Yeah.
So I'm being cheeky, but
But I think the question for Rax is, where next? What is the 40 to 50 to 60? What's the next chapter, do you think?
The next chapter is like, I'm a people person, as you can tell. So whatever I'll be doing, and I think I'm just naturally now gravitating to people who are making a difference at scale. So I've already, Tony Highland from DWP, got a relationship with DWP. So what I'm now focused is on the social mobility space. So not just the financial literacy, the jobs up front. How can I get the people in London job ready, those transferable skills? I've got the content. So through my day job, because that's where I'll be spending the majority of my time. And I think the Japanese refer it to as ikagi, your purpose, getting paid for it, you're contributing to society. This is on that level. And it's just, I'm on annual leave today, because I know this podcast was meant to be happening a lot earlier, but this is where in December I'm just going to be reflecting, writing ideas, strategizing what next year is going to be looking like. And I can't say much, but it is heading in the right direction. But I would like to work with anyone and everyone, where we are really making those small, it doesn't have to be a big company, like laser pointed impacts where people really take value from it. I'm really good at organizational, so time management, I don't really refer it to that as priority management. It's like, how do I give balance to the family, look after them? How do I maintain that? Because my special sergeant, she goes, Rax, how do you do what you do? I said, I only need a couple of hours. I like going to the cinema, I switch off, watch a film, and I'm out again, and I can focus the task at hand. I don't do multitasks. I can do it, but I don't believe in it, because you're not giving all your 100% to it, and you're not being present in that moment. So yeah, my thought process is completely different on that front. But yeah, I think I haven't answered it, and if I did, I went a very long way around it.
Yeah, I normally do that when I answer questions. That's the best way. Get right around them. So you've been lucky enough to have, you've got your mentor, big companies supporting. You've had a childhood, obviously, with love and support there. In the social mobility bit, we know that there are a lot of people that don't have the loving family, and that it's kind of that's without the loving family or the community, then that leads to social exclusion. It leads to lots of issues socioeconomically. What advice, if people haven't got some of the bits you have, whether look at it as, oh, it's all right, he's a wonderful speaker, he's got his education, he's had his family, and lucky, but lots of people wouldn't have those things. Any just little words of wisdom for people who might not have all those things in place?
And I get that, and I really, really get that. Whether it's from the bank's perspective, whether it's from a police perspective, and I think the first lesson I learned that from when I asked my uncle when he picked me up from school, and I asked my uncle, I said, "How come I don't get pocket money?" And because my upbringing was different from someone who was getting pocket money, and my uncle goes, "You get assessed when we are teaching you, and you get rewarded for it. Some people get taught chores, and school is where you start picking up different people's backgrounds. So somewhere in subconsciously, I already learned, that we were all different, not just by our skin color or our way we thought, or because again, as kids, we were talking about different religions because I had friends who were Christian, Muslim, and for those who don't have the same background as me, it's fine. What's happened has happened. Do not blame others with what's happened in your life as a childhood. Take ownership of what you can do now. Because when I think about the really successful people, I'm going to use someone I've never met, but someone I highly respect. His name's Tony Robbins. I don't know if you guys have come across him, right? His family, again, his childhood. I think he had 4 dads. His mum was an abuser, drug abusive, alcohol. He got physically, verbally abused, and his dad walked out on Thanksgiving because someone came and did some good. So he remembers his childhood, and what is he doing in return? We let's not, which I probably mentioned earlier in the podcast, is do not outsource your happiness. Do not outsource who you are. You decide who you are. And like my mentor said to me years ago, he goes, it's not the value that one brings. Your value is being you, who you are. So if there is anyone who's listening or answering your question directly, be grateful who you are. And what's happened in your life is what's made you who you are. So any problems that you've suffered or faced, make sure someone else doesn't face it. Let them face some other problems, and then we just all move forward one step at a time.
Wonderful.
Sorry,
Wonderful words of advice. No, thank you so much. So I'm done with my questions. Annabelle, you got more you would like to ask?
No, I haven't got any more. I mean, I'm just wondering. Sometimes we say to people, how can people help? How can we help? Is there anything that you would say could help you on your journey or others on theirs? What would be the call to action? I mean, I know you've just done a wonderful, be yourself and accept that yourself is good enough, and it's how you move forward. I'm very supportive of that.
Okay. I'll give you a practical example. Because that kind of probably came across something out of a film, like inspirational. So Black History Month happened just this not so long ago, and one of our guest speakers in Lloyds Banking Group was Tim Campbell. And what Tim was saying, and I'm going to give a practical example to this. He goes, find a problem, or find out what the problem is, figure out what the solution is. From there, that's how you increase your net worth. So in India, the one thing I've noticed is resources are limited. So we talk about frugal innovation. So when I talk about giving people platforms in my day job, one of the biggest resourcing issue is money, right? I'm based in the West End, prime location. Skill Builders, DWP, where you met me, they didn't pay for that space. I gave them that space without paying for it. So again, doesn't matter whether you're a charity or a social enterprise, we want to do good. And it's just like simple things like that can make the world a difference. That money that they didn't have to pay on a venue, they can now use that money to create more content, hire someone else. And that's one of the reasons I also wanted to support skill builders, because growing up, all I'm always been hearing is, oh, we don't have the right people with the right skill sets working in the right place, or productivity is an issue. So I'm just playing my small little part in this conversation to let's try to do something together. So is that a practical enough example, or do I
Yeah, no,
need to
I
think of?
like it. I like it. I like the idea of just, being as generous as one can be, without, for the betterment of everyone, without needing anything in return. It's the outcome. I like generosity as a
It's
yeah.
why we're on this funding issue. Is we one of this huge insights with the young leaders was what you can do with a small amount of money. If somebody doesn't have a job and you just give them a living wage and say to them, right, do whatever you want, define your own job, then suddenly you remove all those barriers of people who are unemployed, what they'd like to get a job. Well, just give them some money. It's not a big amount of money and it can make such a big difference. So funding communities, people directly, your example of the office, can go to sort of a, creating employment for people. Just, rather than squeezing them into jobs where they don't have the right skill or experience, then just create some jobs that they can do, because there's so much work to do in the world and there's a lot of money and resources. So why don't we just create more meaningful work?
So
So
there's
I
another
think that's
way. Yeah, sorry to cut you off.
a
So going about money, I don't like debt. Um, so I went to a local university again. I could do my degree business studies anywhere in the country, but why do I need to go somewhere and put myself in extreme debt? So I kept my university locals. So I am not. We talk about well-being, and I've seen the theme across this podcast is well-being. So my well-being, even without me realizing it, is if I don't like anything like debt, I would then have to be getting a job to clear off that debt. So who am I actually being a slave to? Is it to the debt? Am I really aspiring to my aspirations? Am I actually working for it? And people's journeys, not just because I went to uni doesn't mean someone else has to go to uni. You need to decide what's right for you. Um, Again, apprenticeships is a great way to start a career. My friend, when I had the aspiration to go to uni, he ended up getting a job at the age of 16, 17. And even when I left uni, he was earning more money. And it's just like, there's no right or wrong answer. You just got to decide what's right for you.
and
I
being
agree.
allergic to debt is a really good start to that,
Yeah,
morally.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
generally good advice. Yeah, brilliant.
Wow. Okay,
Okay,
that's whizzed
conscious
through an
of
hour. Yeah.
we are 50 minutes in, which is fantastic. So I guess all, unless there's any more you want to add, Rax, I'm going to say thank you for your time and your story. It's been amazing. Thank you. I hope it will inspire many. Rob, do you want to say
No, I
anything?
just also want to echo the thanks, and I it's sometimes difficult to filter through the grey matter and externalize it and put the journey on the table. But there are so many insights, so I really thank you for that. I know others will enjoy watching it, so thank you.
No, thanks again
All right.
for having me on.
Okay, see you. Cheers. Bye.